Hi, so we are group 2 of the Utah Lake project for this class, and we are excited to kind of give you an overview and some of our findings, what we've seen studying Utah Lake and doing some surveys and things like that. I'm going to start. My name's Easton Egan. I'm going to do your project overview, give you some of our timelines and our deliverables, and kind of just introduce you to what we're going to do. And so, first of all, if you see the project overview, our first idea was we got to understand the Utah Lake project. So we studied it. We feel like we really understand it now. And we thought, how can we best get the public's opinion on this? And it's because of that we created a 10-question survey. We try to keep it basic, but also with the correct questions to really understand and hear what people want to know about the lake and actually what they even know about the lake. We were surprised to see our first question was, do you even know about Utah Lake project? And could you give us any details on it? I think you'll be surprised to see what we see here. And so because of that, we did a lot of data collection, and then we will give you our presentation, which you are seeing now on our findings. So our project timeline, it's relatively short because it was from May to August. And so from May to June, it was only a couple of weeks. We really studied, learned, and kind of planned out our timeline and our project. And from June to July, we conducted our surveys. We created that survey and we took those results. And in August, we are creating the presentation, also providing feedback on the results we have given. And so our deliverables will be, we have survey results that we're going to be sharing. Our second deliverable will be our presentation. And third, you'll hear some of our recommendations for Utah Lake from this. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that project overview. I'm going to be going over our data collection and our process. The goal of our project was to find more reasons on what we could do to drive more people to come to the Utah Lake. A lot of people weren't utilizing it, and we really wanted to get down to the bottom of what we could do to drive more people to the lake. The main thing is we essentially had to build the trust between the community and the Utah Lake Commission again, as that needed to be repaired. With our data collection, we wanted to find the direct reasons, again, on why people would want to come back to the lake. So we actually started off in the process creating a 20-question survey. We then took that 20-question survey, narrowed it down to 10 really, really awesome questions to send out to the community. We wanted a variety of different kind of data collections. We wanted to survey people that lived a little bit farther away from the lake, and we also wanted to survey people that lived close to the lake. That way we were able to give a wide perspective on what we could do, essentially what would drive people that would farther away to come, and how do we capitalize on the community that was already surrounding the lake. So with that, we created the survey within Qualtrics. We were able to send that survey out to 100 people. We were able to generate a survey link. We then took that survey link, we posted it on different kind of social media platforms, as well as sent it to our community as directly as possible. And this way, our Utah Lake Commission could hear directly back from the community that would be utilizing the lake. So we felt like the survey was the best one to get our community engaged and essentially contact them directly. Since we did run into a couple speed bumps with the survey, essentially we couldn't do a lot of interviews face to face, as we sent out that generated link. Once you clicked on it and took the survey, you would not be able to take the survey again. So we couldn't sit there and keep clicking on the survey to collect data if we were to go out to Salt Lake City and essentially interview people directly. Our goal was to send it out to over 250 people, knowing that not all 250 people were going to fill it out. So we were able to reach our goal utilizing that method of 100 by setting us up for success and really capitalizing on sending out the survey in masses. So we wanted to make sure our team was essentially over prepared to hit our survey goal. Utilizing these messages, we were able to hit our 100 people goal to fill out the survey. And now we're going to talk about the brief overviews on materials that we used and necessarily the resources.
Thank you, Stephen. Now, once our survey was actually created, we did go ahead and use SurveyMonkey to do our creation process, and we had it open for approximately 2 weeks. However, most of our survey results did come within the first week of it being open, typically between the 29th and the 7th. We did have a total response of 101 people within that first week, and SurveyMonkey did make our analysis process very easy to run through by creating 3 separate analysis categories. The first was a summary of the responses for all of the questions for our survey. The second were the insights and data trends for the collection itself. And third was a breakdown of the individual responses for each person who took the survey. Now, for our question summary section, each question gives a visual aid such as a bar graph to show the data. For example, one interesting thing our results did show us that of the 101 people who did take our survey, 47 people, a couple of which did live within 10 miles of the lake itself, said that they had no prior knowledge of the Utah Lake Project. And 12 people who did know about the project did say they did not approve of it. So as we can see here, here's our total number of no's. It's just under 50%, but then our people who said yes but said no, they did not approve was just over 10% of our total survey respondents. Now, our insights and data trends section was fairly straightforward. It gives details on the collection process itself, such as how long on average it took each person to complete the survey and what days we had the most survey results come in. So according to our chart here, the most survey respondents chose to take the survey on the 5th of July. And on average, it took about 1 minute and 45 seconds to complete, but it also told us the total or the most skipped question for our survey. So as we can see here, what is your favorite lake to go to and why? What makes it so appealing? We put this question into our survey to see just on average what are the favorite lakes people go to? What makes them so appealing? What could we in turn use that to showcase and change for Utah Lake to get more people to participate in lake activities, maybe up the traffic for Utah Lake itself. Now, our final analysis section focuses on the individual responses of each participant. In this section, we can see the date and time they took it, how long it took each specific person. We can even see their exact start and end times. We thought this was a really important thing to include just because this helps focus on the individual who may sometimes get overlooked or lost in a community as a whole, especially in a project of this size where you do have so many different communities who can be impacted by the project itself.
Thank you, Chase. As Easton mentioned, the awareness for the Utah Lake Project is lacking. 46% of the people we surveyed said that they are unaware of the project. We feel this is a concern since people may not know about the changes that will potentially be made once the Utah Lake Project is completed. Additionally, without the awareness, the lack of support may drive to a less successful project or its outright failure. We found that 85% felt that it was important to complete the project. However, since there is a significant lack of knowledge or awareness of the project, we recommend that people can become more aware through advertising and connecting with people on social media platforms. We specifically thought about city and community Facebook pages. We feel that would be a great way for neighbors and friends to talk about the lake project, especially within their own community. Our hope is that through social media, we can keep interested parties up to date about decisions made about the lake, expected completion dates, and future changes to come. Large events like sports games, volunteer events, charity, and service projects might also be a great venue to spread the word about the changes happening to the local lake. Another potential avenue to bring awareness is to invite schools K through 12 grades to get involved by going on field trips to the lake and conducting studies about the lake. Honestly, any research and development practices will be crucial to the project's success and branding. Another key statistic we found is that 76% of participants said that they would visit the lake more often with the completion of the project. We see this as a consumer demand for a more usable lake. This can be done by focusing on the reasons people feel that they don't want to be at the lake. Water quality and shoreline cleanliness was a huge concern for our participants, and this major issue does need to be addressed. Talks about the water quality can be addressed by dredging the lake to increase the depth of the lake and investing in resources to clean the lake from previous dumping. Shoreline cleanliness can be accomplished by renovating already established park areas. Additionally, unused areas around the lake can be developed to accommodate new open park areas, camping locations, and food truck parking. These changes are easier to complete than the more complex ideas of adding shopping structures, an island in the middle of the lake, and large-scale water entries. These changes are easier to complete than the more complex ideas I just mentioned. We feel that small steps initially will help establish trust and awareness that could later yield to more complex results.
Right. Thank you, Hannah, for going over our recommendations. So now we'll go ahead and talk about our project assessment and our evaluation for the project. So we feel like we try to write our survey with questions that focused on listening to the consumers, listening to the problems they had, and to gain that honest feedback from the community. So we wanted to make sure that we focused on their concerns, their ideas, and their expectations. We didn't want people to take the survey and feel like we were trying to guide them through a series of questions or to gain certain responses from the survey. So we try to be as open and as simple as we could be to drive that feedback from them. We wanted to make sure that the users were focused on the lake and that the survey questions were focused on people who actually utilize the lake, the actual consumers of the lake. So when we were looking at who those kind of people would be, we were looking at people who either utilize the lake now or would use it once the project has been completed. Further, we wanted to ensure that we focus on the demand for the lake and hopefully provide incentives for people to come back, as well as the project leaders, politicians, business owners, and anyone who would, after the project has been completed, to continue to work and grow the Utah Lake as it is. So we wanted to make sure that we delivered our responses from our survey directly to those decision makers. We didn't want any kind of confusion or missed opportunities to clearly convey the needs of the customers and consumers of Utah Lake. And despite the limited time and resources, we feel confident that the data that we provided and the results and the impact of this project are going to positively affect the Utah Lake project as a whole. We feel like we provided another drop in the bucket towards the greater Utah Lake project, and we feel like we're providing data and analysis based on what that people are asking for. And so going forward with that, we want to look at what a sustainable plan going forward and how to sustain these recommendations would be going forward. So one of those things would actually be to continue to conduct surveys like we did for our project. We want to make sure that we set up and train a data collection team to make sure that we have trained individuals, not just handing out cards or whatever, but actually are taking the time to conduct and write these surveys to kind of facilitate the kind of questions and feedback that we're looking for, but is also honest in its dealings. We want to probably establish some kind of annual or biannual survey. We don't want it to be too often where it just feels really repetitive and we're kind of just getting a lot of the same feedback, but often enough where we feel like these certain milestones are being met and to continue to gain feedback after a certain amount of time, especially after certain changes have been made. Establishing that regular communication is part of those surveys things, but we also want to make sure that we're working with outside agencies as well. So any kind of environmental agency or other state agencies that also work on lake projects and bodies of water, to kind of share data with them, find out what their kind of procedures are, any kind of tendencies that they see that are either positive or negative, that would affect the lake and other bodies of water, and see kind of what their standards are, kind of compare us to the norm and see where we kind of stand, and if we need to, work harder in some areas or kind of pull in the reins in some others. We also want to make sure that we're continuing to utilize a great resource when working with local universities. Working with Utah Valley University for this particular project has been a huge bonus and benefit for both the Utah Lake project as well as Utah Valley University, right? The students have had a huge opportunity to provide some real work and real world experience, but also providing very valuable data and having a lot of man hours, a huge resource for the Utah Lake project as well. And so we want to see the Utah Lake project kind of take advantage of those types of benefits, potentially working with other universities, and kind of like Hannah had mentioned before, even smaller schools, K through 12 schools, could provide some kind of useful information and boost those kind of man-hour resource numbers a little bit, just to kind of give those the knowledge and expertise a little bit of a bump as well. We also want to make sure that the Utah Lake project is maintaining a media presence on social media. So like how Hannah had mentioned, that was kind of an initial recommendation that we want to see happen now. We also want to make sure that that continues into the future, right? So it's not just about the project, it's about Utah Lake as a whole. And so as many projects are completed, the beautification of the shorelines and the increase in water quality, sure, are put onto social media, but we want to make sure that when the project is completed, that the social media presence doesn't stop. We want to make sure that people are continuing to see what Utah Lake provides, the incentives and benefits of utilizing Utah Lake, and hopefully that would help drive further use of the lake into the future, and not just an initial swarm of people when the lake is completed and then it slowly die off over time. Yeah, so those are our sustainability plans for the future. We just want to make sure that we say thank you for the Utah Lake project, their board, and Utah Valley University for providing this opportunity for us. And we hope that we provided valuable data and work that can be utilized to help complete the Utah Lake project. Thanks.